It's so hard to describe Circus Maximus. I've always had a strong fondness for films or stories where absurdity and reality cross paths. More often than not, the fusion of those two elements spawn comedy. And Circus Maximus was a great opportunity for me as a filmmaker to explore this. As the narrative lends itself to the zany, it gave me a great chance to blur that line between the ridiculous and the norm. I had a lot of fun with it. Circus Maximus tells the story of an established screenwriter who neglects an important deadline with a major Hollywood studio, and as a result has to finish an entire feature-length screenplay within a solitary weekend.
So basically it's the story of an artist who's forced to create something when he has no inspiration whatsoever, doesn't want to do it, already spent the money.
And the screenplay has to be comprised of 3 twisted short stories, one even more twisted than the next.
I played Romano, who was a producer who is trying to get this film in, under schedule and trying to get this guy who's got the writer's block to write the friggin' thing.
He doesn't like that he's sort of a little lazy and a bit of a fuck up.
My character plays a guy who's writing on a deadline and he needs to get, and he can't do it.
He has to have the script written in 2 days. He locks himself in his apartment to get it done, and of course anything that can go wrong does.
And he's just encountering all sorts of zany obstacles.
He's pretty much procrastinating on this whole story, his whole idea of what he's writing.
And he puts together these wacky cockamamie stories.
And crazy and wild and disgusting and shocking and funny.
They want 3 short films in one.
And all the vignettes are kind of glued together by all this stuff with the writer.
He has to deal with a boatload of other things that he didn't have to deal with when it was just a hobby, to the point where all this guy wants to do is reclaim his anonymity.
We've all been there. We've all had to do something that we maybe didn't want to do, but the deadline's there, so I think we can identify with that.
I guess it was about the troubles of life, There's a mountain, you gotta climb it. Basically, that's it.
So you have all of this stuff between self-reclamation and hobby becoming the job, all of these undertones, meaningful undertones sprinkled throughout Circus Maximus, somewhere in between all of the dick and fart jokes.
It's all about what he's writing. You actually see these ridiculous stories played out, and they're hilarious.
Let me tell you a little bit about what my story is. My story is about a guy who's married with 3 kids and a pain-in-the-ass wife and a wood chipper that I envisioned. Oh wait, you're talking about the film. Oh, okay. My story is about a guy who basically can't get laid, and I rely on my good buddy to help me out.
And he does his best friend a favor. One of his best buddies. He feels, let me take care of my buddy. Let me set him up on a blind date with this little person that just got out of this insane asylum.
She's mentally disturbed. She does a lot of crazy things to him, especially towards the end of the movie.
And I'm hooked up with this girl, but I'm hard up and I want to get laid. I want to get my dick sucked. What guy doesn't, I'm sure that guy does.
The date quickly falls short of both of their expectations, pun very intended, and it just spirals out of control.
And then before you know it, I'm handcuffed in a tub, getting tasered and fucked up the ass with some dildo, and cigarettes are being put out on me. In real life, I would pay good money for that, but in the movie, I was quite upset.
Definitely something that you've never seen before.
One of the stories is called Unfortunate Son. It's about a frazzled mother and her disgruntled son, and how they're in psychotherapy, and after a certain amount of time they just realize that they hate each other to death.
In Circus Maximus, I play a therapist who is seeing a patient that has issues with his parents, who has issues with his mother, who has issues with poop.
One of those unfortunate people who has been unchecked in his life.
And all the stuff with the therapist and the guy who wants to kill his mother. That stuff is just hysterical.
My favorite therapy scene is the fantasy sequence, definitely. About 2 weeks before filming, I found out I was pregnant with twins. And so when I was, and I remember telling Tommy on the phone, I'm pregnant with twins. And I remember getting into that tight outfit. And I swear to God, I was gaining weight immediately. And I remember putting on that porno outfit and that bustier, and there were 2 guys trying to get that thing on me. Like I was busting out of the thing. Like had we filmed that a few weeks later, I would not have fit in that outfit. Well, this is more of a zany comedy. I've worked on comedies before, but this was definitely the zaniest comedy I've ever worked on.
The last story of the 3 in Circus Maximus is called The Misadventures of Captain Cool and Sergeant Suave. It's about 2 private investigators that are hired to find a fetus in a formaldehyde jar. And when one of the 2 private investigators develops an unnatural bond with this item, they hatch a plan to keep it and deceive their employer.
We're looking for this fetus that my mother gave birth to. It was a stillborn. And we hire these 2 detectives to bring back this fetus, but they're totally whacked out of their minds. And they, unfortunately bring back the wrong thing for us. And you got to see it from there. You got to see more about it.
We're just kind of some, bumbling amateur detectives.
Working in the bed scene was, it was intimidating at first. My parents were right outside the room actually when we filmed that scene. So I was really nervous. How would you feel walking around in bra and undies and your father's right outside, So it's interesting.
During the bedroom scene where I'm handcuffed to the character of Anna, I'm handcuffed to her ankle. She brought her parents down to the set that night, and they're literally waiting right outside the bedroom door. So in between takes, when our director of photography, Tom Agnello, would be readjusting lights, some PAs would scuffle about the set and they would open the door. And then I would be on the bed and I would make full eye contact with her father. I'm handcuffed to this girl, she's half naked. And here's a grown man, I'm like, yeah, hi, He was really professional, we were all very cool about it, but it was that moment, it was a little weird. The dwarf rape scene in Circus Maximus gets a lot of attention. And it's interesting when people say, how did it take you a long time to convince Sal the stockbroker from the Howard Stern show to do this? And I'm like, this is Sal from Howard Stern. This is just another day at the office for Sal. I mean, last I saw Sal on Howard Stern, he was sniffing Richard Christie's nuts in front of a live studio audience. So, I mean, this is just old hat. So I figure if I can find anyone to get raped by a little person, that's my man.
And watching Sal get reminded by the little person was really nothing new for me because I've heard and listened to him on Howard so much. Which I find pretty remarkable is that the fair that they had afterward.
I enjoyed seeing Sal, getting tased. That was a taser, right? He gets, I don't know, he's funny.
It was fun. I've never done anything like that, so definitely felt like I was getting some aggression out. I really enjoyed it.
People ask me, what was it like being raped?
Painful. It looked, even for me, it looked painful. So, but he's very funny in it too.
The raping part wasn't so bad, it was more of being actually handcuffed to that little bar. And the crazy thing was that my arms were positioned in a strange way where they started cramping up and they started hurting, so.
He was a real trooper there. I had him chained to a pipe on his knees for about 2 hours. The guy didn't bitch once.
Between my arms and my knees, I tell you, man, if you got a girl that blows you for 15 minutes or more, take her out to a really nice dinner, because I didn't realize how much it hurts on the fucking knees, being down there on your knees like that. So this is my way of saying thank you to the ladies out there. I now feel your pain, literally. You know, jizz in the mouth ain't shit.
When we had our test screenings at Technicolor for Circus Maximus, it's either the look on their faces, you just see, 100 mouths agape. Some people are laughing, some people are shocked. They don't know whether to be laughing or they don't know whether to be amused or to be appalled when watching that scene. So it's that fine line in dark comedy.
The most memorable part of doing Circus Maximus for me was definitely the robe. I had to wear the robe of the executive producer, Al Goodstein. He'd been wearing this robe probably since he was 9 years old and hadn't washed it. Because when they gave it to me to wear it for the scene, I was like, it didn't move in the wind. Like, it was so stained with stuff. Half of it wasn't even like a human stain. I don't even know what, he was like butchering cows with it or something. And I was bashing, we had to bash it with a hammer to make it malleable so it would fit my body instead of this like old dude's body. It was just, and it smelled like...
All right, listen, there's been a lot of rumors about this robe that I have that Julian had to wear. Now my thing is, he's saying this robe is old. He doesn't know how old it really is. It wasn't even my robe. This came from Europe, this robe. God knows what this robe has seen. When the robe is like 40, 50 years old, man, that thing fits like a glove. They said I don't know if it smelled or whatever, we wash it, but there were stains on there. You know, my dog probably wiped his ass on there a couple of times. Who knows? I know I sat in it without underwear on. You know what happens with that stuff? After you tinkle a little bit, sometimes some stuff kind of leaks out, you know. And so what if you don't have a towel? You got your robe, you're wiping on your robe, you know.
It smelled like if Bay Arthur's vagina had an attic.
B. Arthur.
Oh.
It fit his character. It really made him happen. When he put that on, he became this writer. I mean, it made him happen. And I'm glad I can do this for him. I mean, if he wants to wear it again, if he wants to take it home, I'm more than welcome. Maybe he needs a bathrobe.
I loved the scene where I get to see Kevin Corrigan in a thong.
Dude, are you wearing a thong? Look at this. Oh, Jesus Christ,
Look at
dude.
Look at that. So that was new to me, was Kevin Corrigan's ass. And I've seen Kevin Corrigan in so many of his movies. I'm a huge fan of his. And I always was like, he never does like an ass shot. So it was really exciting for me just to be able to pause that and really get into it.
I'm glad he likes the way I look in a thong. It's probably the last time I'll ever wear one. First and last.
Seeing Kevin Corrigan in thong is something that's had a lasting impression on me. Even when I'm, mostly when I'm trying to sleep at night. And, I no longer get off watching girls bend over and having the thong peek out. It's just not the same anymore.
I did not need to see Kevin Corrigan wearing a thong. But why not? Throw it in. This movie's a sick pot of fish, I'll tell you that.
Oh, God. Well, let me see. He looked cute in the thong. I thought he looked cute in the thong. I've had a crush on Kevin for a long time. I make no bones about it.
And it was such an honor to work with Kevin because he's a great guy and he brought a lot to the character.
This film had a lot of heart compared to these really big productions that have tons of CGI and there's no storylines and there's no plots and it's just it just caters to the lowest common denominator when it comes to brain cells. This film has a lot of heart, has a lot of soul, it has a lot of integrity and great writing. And that's what makes this film stand out from a lot of the horseshit you see every day in the cinemas.
It was just really neat to be part of like something where everybody's doing it because they are excited to be there. And so it was fun to do, I did end up getting syphilis and hep C from the robe. So that sucked. But that goes away, right?
My most memorable part of the film would probably be the graveyard scene between Julia McCullough and Joey G, because there's sort of like a gentle, kind of a vulnerable man energy. I call it a menergy. There's a lot of vulnerability and there's a lot of sensual undertones between the two of them. It's a real dance, that scene. It gets me real jazzed.
Working with Rachel Feinstein, doesn't matter. Working with Rachel Feinstein was a lot of fun. I already loved her stand-up comedy. She does a lot of stand-up comedy about her mom. And no, I already loved Rachel's stand-up, and I knew her, and I always knew she was like pretty or whatever, but working with her in this movie was great because she does the accent that really turns me on. So it was like, after doing this movie, I was like, I really want to bone Rachel, you know what I mean? And then Tommy was like, cut, and then I was like, oh, fuck it.
Rachel Feinstein is fucking funny!
Working with Sal the stockbroker was an amazing experience. Here's a guy who works on the Howard Stern show every day, and he wants to be part of Circus Maximus, and just having him on the set was a great trip.
Working with Mario Cantone was such a joy for me, and I didn't even tell him why, but I grew up watching Mario Cantone, and he doesn't want to hear that because he doesn't want anyone to know that he's over 50, right? He's over 50. He doesn't want anybody to, is he 60?
I'm 90 years old.
Mario is one funny son of a bitch. He is on rocket fuel. He is on volume 10 from an energy standpoint. He can go all day, great improviser.
Working with Tommy Lasorsa was a great experience, and I'll tell you why. Tommy is so committed to his film. He's so committed to his project. He has such a vision that he really gives you his heart and soul, whatever it takes. Tommy's always 2 steps ahead of you. If he senses something, Tommy is like the Spider-Man of directors. He can really literally sense when you're uneasy about something. And his heart and soul is all about filmmaking. So working with Tommy was a great experience because he makes you feel comfortable, he makes you feel like family, and he really works with you in getting the best out of you. And that's what Tommy did.
And then he sent me the script, and I read my parts, and I thought, this kid can really write. And my partner said the same thing, and he's tough. And then I met him the next day, and I told him so. And I didn't realize how cute he was going to be. And he was adorable. He has a girlfriend. He likes vagina.
Working with Tommy Lasorsa was a great experience for me. After I read Circus Maximus for the first time, I was glad I was part of it, and I couldn't wait to get to work on it.
Working with Joe Ganascoli, here's a guy who's on every season of Sopranos, and he has a trillion other things he can be doing, yet he's hanging out on Circus Maximus.
I need to go buy DVDs, and I'm going to buy Circus Maximus right now.
Circus Maximus. Watch the movie.
Just watch the movie and you'll understand what we're all talking about. You should watch the movie and then look at the extras. If you look at the extras now, you're not gonna fucking get it. So watch the movie.
I'm fortunate to have great producers on this project. In no particular order, in addition to the producers on this featurette, I had Andy Entrada, Miguel Tirado, Javier Zelaya, Kamal Ahmed, Al Torella, Christina Catracci.
I don't have enough time to thank everyone, but I do want to thank Tom McMello, our DP, Rob Robitaille, Rob Sabar.
I was very fortunate to get a part in Circus Maximus. Tommy called me up and said, listen, we're looking for a guy who looks like a pizza delivery guy. And I didn't have to try out because I was a producer. So there was pizza delivery guy number 1. I didn't get that part, but pizza delivery guy number 2 was open. So
the days I showed up at the editing room, Tommy Lasorsa was working with our editor Ilya Osovitz, and it was at Ilya's place. And I just remember this giant Japanese warrior dog he had, and this cat literally just chased each other around the table as we were editing. It was like editing on the set of Tom and Jerry, except Tom was a dog and Jerry was a cat. I think there was a fish tank too. It was like working in a room where there's the food chain. You had the humans, the dog, the cat, fish. It's like Animal Kingdom.
So I say to Tommy, why Circus Maximus? And the Roman that he is, he's got to throw in that Italian. And I looked it up, the whole thing with Rome and what happened in those days. It's not too different from this film.
The credit sequence was basically a movie within a movie unto itself. And I was paying homage to the old 1950s and 60s television specials like Lucille Ball and Bob Hope, and even the Rankin Bass Christmas specials with the Heat Miser and the Cold Miser. It was basically a style of animation where they would animate wooden figures one frame at a time. So I wanted to maintain that retro stop-motion jerky feel even though we were doing it digitally.
Does my background in directing commercials help me directing films? I hope so. Shortly after the release of my first film, All Saints Day, I launched Speak Media Advertising, geared toward broadcast commercials. And when you're doing a commercial, you're basically selling a product or service within 30 seconds. With films, it's the same thing, just slightly different. You're selling the story to an audience. Are the characters within the story something strong enough that an audience will invest themselves into? So I'd like to think that that both, directing commercials helps me out.
A thing that a lot of people don't know is that I insisted on using a real vibrator. And Tommy went out and he bought the Shaquille O'Neal Super Duper Black Edition, and I still have it to this day. It's right on my mantle next to pictures of my children.